Salute to all my subscribers and followers. Today we're going to look at a notorious motorcycle club from the late 60s in New York City who didn't take too kindly to those street gangs who named themselves similarly to them or whose patches resembled theirs. This video will showcase one such incident with the Ghetto Brothers street gang from the Bronx, New York in the early 70s. Get ready for some New York City gang history. You see, when the Ghetto Brothers created their first patch, it contained a flaming skull as the center patch, very similar to that notorious motorcycle club of the late 60s. Because of this design, the Ghetto Brothers would eventually have a run-in with them, as you will see in the next photos taken from Yellow Benjy's book, How I Found Peace in the South Bronx Street Gang Wars, where Yellow Benjy goes into detail about what happened. So, I'm looking like this, and someone said, "Benjy." I said, "Yeah, it was Sandy." He says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 18. He goes, "You know you're old enough to die?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "The colors, Benjy. They look too much like Hell's Angels. So if you put your boys at a distance and my boys over here, white rockers, red letters, white rockers, red letters. You have a skull and fire. We have a skull with wings. Come on, that's so identical." Ironically, we're going to go on the David Susskind show later that night. The David Susskind show was doing a special with all the presidents of the gangs in the Bronx at that time. The Turbans, the Savage Skulls, Savage Nomads, all of them. So I told him about that. He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll allow you to wear the colors, but you got to get rid of the patch. If you go on TV and I see those colors on like they are, we're going to go after you." And I said, "Oh, yeah. Look at the way I was talking. Sounding real tough. I was an outlaw at this time, right?" I said, "Oh, yeah, like that. Like you could just roll into the South Bronx." He said, "You have no idea who you're messing with, right?" I said, "What Hell's Angels?" That was my attitude. I didn't care. And he was right. I didn't have any real idea who I was messing with. So Dominguez intervenes and says, "I'd like to say something. You shut up and mind your business. Nobody's talking to you." Another Hell's Angels yells at him. I told Dominguez, "Be quiet," because they were just about to pounce on him. They said, "Shut up. Nobody's talking to you. We're talking to this guy." I said, okay, we'll see about that." Sandy said, "I'm warning you. We're going to look at television tonight. David Susskind Channel 5. We're going to be watching Benjamin." So when I went back to the Bronx, I did a little research in the library on the Hell's Angels. Found out they had chapters from New York to California. Chapters all over. They got M in New Zealand, Australia, England. They're one of the most vicious and well-organized motorcycle gangs in the country. And they are allies to some of the most vicious motorcycle gangs in the country. They're allies to all these gangs. And I was like, oh my goodness. Later on that night, somebody said, "Benjy, what's happening?" I said, "Take off that patch." If you would have seen me on that David Susskind show, I didn't just take it off. It was ripped off. Man, I had a hole in my lead jacket. I went just like that to the David Susskind show with a hole in my jacket. So the gang goes, "Benjy, man, you're going to give in to these guys?" I said, "Yo, brothers, you don't know who the hell you're messing with. These are the Hell's Angels." I didn't really understand the full extent of who the Hell's Angels were. When I saw them in the movies and in magazines, I didn't realize that they were that big and for real. And they had influence. These guys knew people. Sandy said to me, "Benjamin, you have no idea what we can do to a place like the South Bronx. You have no idea." But it was cool. You know, he let me go. I went back to the Bronx and I told the guys we were going to change the colors. That's the genesis of the garbage cans, the infamous Ghetto Brothers patch. That's when we said, "What's our new patch?" I looked at the garbage cans, Ghetto Brothers. The buildings were coming down full swing. The South Bronx was coming down, burning. The whole place was dirty, real trash. So I said, "Garbage cans." Originally, I wanted to do garbage cans and buildings in the background, but that would be too much art, so I left it just plain garbage cans. That's the genesis of the Ghetto Brothers gang patch. So before the David Susskind's interview, Yellow Benjy ordered all Ghetto Brothers to remove their center patches, as you can see in this footage from 1972, courtesy of Rubble Kings. None of the Ghetto Brothers are wearing their center patches at all. In fact, true to what Yellow Benjy wrote in his book, which you just saw, he really ripped off his center patch. So for a while, the Ghetto Brothers did not have a center patch. As you can see in this photo, this is after their meeting with a notorious motorcycle club from the late 60s. But later on, they began to create their second patch, which would become their main center patch. And thus, the Ghetto Brothers 3 garbage can center patch was created. Crazy, huh? But that notorious motorcycle club from the late 60s didn't just have a run-in with the Ghetto Brothers. They also had run-ins with other New York street gangs with similar red and white colors and similar center patches that looked like this. They also made a few gangs change their names because of the similarities to theirs. This was the beginning of the biker-influenced New York street gangs outlaws era, and it's crazy that many wanted to become that notorious motorcycle club but were not allowed because of their age and ethnicity. So they created their own street gangs similar to that notorious motorcycle club, even adopting that outlaw biker look, but this time around with flying cut sleeves, denim jackets, and either hand-painted or felt patches, These young New York street gangs took something they couldn't become and made it even more savage. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe or follow to see my future videos. Please hit the like or heart button. Leave your comment and share this with everyone. Peace.